Subscribe, like, comment and share to support the channel. Thank you for the support. Damian's newly summoned creatures, which were the gargoyles he had killed before, started to descend upon the boomers like vultures hunting its prey from the sky. The gargoyles were the first to draw blood as they bit hard into the boomers, but they weren't going down without a fight as one of the boomers leaped up into the air to counterattack, with a massive landing and powerful blow into the ground. The boomer's attack was able to send shockwaves through the air to push the gargoyles away from its pack. The battle between the beast continued on and on. Damian, on the other hand, was simply standing on top of a dead boomer's corpse, thinking about how from the start he never once thought of losing, as he watched the beasts battle against one another fiercely, which he expected of the high-ranked predators of the highlands. One of the boomers appears in the air right above Damian, which he sees as he looks up at it. But the boomer was stopped in the air by two gargoyles who appeared at just the right time. Damian smiles as he sees this and noted that the boomer's attack motion was too wide, which gave them a lot of gaps. He then summons a ton of his decay elixirs and threw them towards the boomer who tried to attack him. "Wipe them all out," shouted Damian as he smiled. Green explosions started to appear all across the skies due to Damian's witch doctor skill called decay elixir. But a different fierce roaring sound catches his attention as Damian turns to what caused the noise. Damian sees it as the leader of the boomers, but he didn't expect that it would have already come down from the cliff. Seeing the incoming boss made Damian immediately draw his knife as he intended to end their fight in one blow as he casted his witch doctor skill as well. Using bloody impulse, Damian stabs the leader of the boomers with his knife straight into its skull in one swing, but the knife decided to be weak and broke apart as Damian tried to pull it off its skull. Looking at the broken knife made him wonder if he had overdone himself, but it didn't matter to him as the attack worked and ended the leader's life easily. Notifications appear to inform Damian that he had defeated the named boomer and had gained EXP. Another notification appears to inform him that he had also obtained the obliterator's skull as a skull mask appears above his hand. Looking at the green aura that was exuding from his hand causes another notification to appear to tell Damian that the effect of the rune of greed extorting hand has been activated. He smiles upon seeing this effect and wonders if he should go recharge on blood and mana now. Our boy is now a vampire. Placing his hand on the dead leader boomer's body activates a notification to tell him that he was absorbing the HP and MP of the named boomer. As he drains the health and mana of the dead body, Damian looks up to see who was still alive. Seeing the Aldean fortress ahead made Damian think that those who were alive were gathered there, so he needed to quickly chase after them. The scene changes to Giorno saluting and reporting to the High Commander that he had returned to Aldean Fortress. Michael, the High Commander, commented that Giorno seems to have been looking for him upon his arrival, which made him question what he wanted. Giorno was ashamed by his conduct but still wanted something from the High Commander. Michael then questions him if he wanted their forces. This was exactly what he wanted, as he reveals to Michael that there was an emergency that is equivalent to the Day of the Twin Moons. Hearing this from him made Michael realize that they were right to be worried from before. He immediately sends out commands for the fortress to be on the highest level of alert effective immediately, and for everyone to assume protective formation for a great monster. Thor along with his own team started to form up and walk together to their formation positions. Giorno heads out as well, and soon enough, the members of the fortress soon stood side by side on top of the fortress walls to be prepared for what was coming to them. "Whoa, so cool," commented another player who opens his stream to inform the audience watching that the defense of Aldean Fortress, the event that they had been waiting for, has finally started. The viewers started to go crazy over the numerous members that were participating in the defense event, as an endless wave of players could be seen forming up in their defensive positions. Thor continues to give out commands to everyone, ordering them to go to their positions and to prepare to go into combat as the monsters will soon invade them. The mage I Love Choco tilted her hat down and noted that it was a shame as Damian should have been here to see this sight along with them. Hyun was still suffering from our boy's Riz attack as her face blushes while telling the mage that Damian had probably logged out and is watching through the stream. One of the watchmen soon spotted something in the far distance and alerted everyone that the monsters were approaching them. An endless horde of different monsters were soon spotted from a close distance to Aldean Fortress. Some members of the fortress were terrified to witness this sight, while the others simply wore a smile on their faces as though they wanted to fight the monsters for fun. But a familiar fierce roar is soon heard throughout the skies, as its loudness was enough to cause the ground and monsters to shiver in fear over it. The leader of the boomers soon appeared on the cliff above the horde of monsters with its sickening aura spreading all around it. A mage from the fortress immediately casts the Night Crow skill called Scan, which gave out a green light. The mage reported to the others that the monster army at the front line was around 798 meters away and that they were slowly closing into the fortress. Thor hears this and informs them that the special strike force of the Night Crow Knights should descend first. When the monsters are within 500 meters, they are to break through the battle line. Members of the fortress began to position near the walls as Thor tells them to prepare for the descent, looking like Game of Thrones. "Wait!" shouted the mage who had scanned the area. He informs them that there was something approaching the fortress at speed. It was closing in on them from 650 meters to 580 meters within seconds. Giorno was surprised to hear this and wondered if the mage was sensing it wrongly, as he knew for a fact that there wasn't a monster in the highlands that could move that quick. But somebody disrupts him as he shouted, "Look over there!" Giorno turns to see what it was and spotted a monster leaping in the air. He recognizes the monster based on its jumping ability as the leader Boomer. He then steps forward in front of the others and unsheathes his sword, which had a purple glow to it, telling them that he was going to take care of that bastard personally. But it turns out that our boy Damian was riding on the back of the leader Boomer while being naked for some reason, but Giorno couldn't see him as he continued to cast his Night Crow skill while leaping off the fortress wall. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he uses the skill called New Moon. With a single swing of his blade, Giorno manages to slice the leader Boomer into half and landed right in front of the fortress. Damian was able to jump out of the attack's way as the leader Boomer split in half. "How can you just attack without a care?" asked Damian towards Giorno, who was surprised to see what state Damian was in. Damian was now a naked boy. A sweat drips down his face as he apologizes to Damian for attacking him. The rest of the members in the fortress were alarmed to see Damian as well, while Hyun was smiling from ear to ear. Giorno then welcomes back Damian to the group as he stood there magnificently without any clothes on. Facing their backs together, Damian immediately drew his daggers out even though he was naked. "Should I go again?" asked Damian as the monster army slowly surrounded him and Giorno from all sides. Giorno held a smile on his face as he tells Damian that that was what he was hoping for, as he and Damian were getting ready for the battle of their lives. Just as Giorno and our naked boy continued to be surrounded by endless waves of monsters, Damian remembered that before he starts slaughtering he needed to stream it. He smiles over the fact that a lot of people will watch the stream because it was the fortress battle. Thor continues to shout out orders to the members in the fortress, telling them that when the monsters enter the range, the special strike force of the Night Crows will descend together. The Night Crows followed the command that Thor gave out and leaped from the fortress together. The audience that were watching through Damian's stream were happy to see this side of the defense event. The Night Crow Knights soon landed near Damian and Giorno as the audience continued to go wild over this. Damian was excited as he was able to stream something that the streamers in the fortress couldn't see up close. One of the monsters runs forward in front of the others, which Damian and Giorno both noticed as their backs were against one another. Damian was surprised to see the monster and noted that it wouldn't even give him the time to greet the viewers. He apologizes to the audience watching him and tells them that he would greet them later on. Giorno immediately calls out to Damian and Karen, the Night Crow Knight who was beside him. Both of them exchanged glances at one another as they knew what they needed to do now. "I'm going," shouted Damian as he led the charge first against the monsters. Damian pulls out his blow dart to cast his Witch Doctor skill, which throws Bundle off his shoulder. Karen on the other hand casts his Night Crow skill, which appeared in the form of lightning that was unleashed in both his eyes and hands. Their combination attack of shooting of poison darts and Karen's Thunder Tempest causes a mixture of purple and yellow explosion to hit the monster. The monster that charged first towards them soon collapses onto the ground, but the monster attack doesn't end as even more monsters started to make their way towards the fortress. Giorno reminds Damian to do his best to hold out, as he reveals to them that there was going to be a bomb soon while he casts his Night Crow skill that gave him a purple aura. He then unleashes the powerful skill called the Full Moon, which absolutely destroys everything in its path. The attack was so powerful that it forced the drawer to change the looks of Damian, who was near it. As he slowly opens his eyes to see the aftermath, it shocked him to think that the New Moon skill was nothing at all compared to the Full Moon skill. Just as a new victim appears to leap at Damian, he looks at it and knew that he couldn't lose to Giorno either. His first slice cuts off a leg, but the second strike ends the spider monster's life in an instant. But as soon as the monster died off, Damian looks around to see where the bomb was that Giorno had mentioned before, but all he could see was a bunch of Night Crow Knights easily slaying the monsters that appeared by them. Seeing all of them here made Damian realize something. As the Night Crows continued to battle it out against the monster army, Damian muttered the word "wait," which Bundle hears and tells him that waiting is the greatest enemy. Bundle then warns him to look forward as even more of the monsters leap towards him. Damian was still easily able to cut down the monsters while thinking about how they were going to order a large-scale bomb. Specifically the commanding officer, at a place where 11 of the top-quality human resources known as the Night Crows were, which all didn't make sense to Damian as his audience couldn't believe his moves as he cut down the monsters. Damian then turns back to wonder if it was true that if the High Commander believes that the Night Crow Knights would be able to survive the bomb. He then shakes his head as he didn't need to know more details about the situation. Instead of trying to understand something annoying, Damian's eyes was more focused on the fight against the monsters. Soon enough, Giorno issues out a command to everyone for them to retreat to the trench in front of the fortress immediately. All the other Night Crow Knights heard his command and quickly went to follow it. Damian heard the command and stood still while thinking if the bombing was about to begin. A red barrier started to spread around the fortress as Damian knew that there was no point in escaping for him as he wasn't a Night Crow, which would make him die on the spot. He continues to wonder about what he could do as the barrier started to flash. A voice shouted out loud that the bomb was starting as numerous magic circles appear onto the red barrier at once. Damian decided then and there that he needed to raise his mana and endure it like a boss. A massive explosion occurs which sends tremors and shockwaves in all directions, destroying everything that stood in its way. As the fog cleared away, Damian is seen in a crater with notifications popping up to inform him that he had gained experience points and finally reached level 60. Damian continued to pant heavily even after surviving the explosion. His face was filled with pain as he knew that he had almost died to the explosion. He then continues to look around wondering if anyone else was still alive. The fog clears up even more to reveal that the Night Crows had hidden themselves in the trench that Giorno had mentioned. He looks around his troops and asks them if everyone was alive. His group replied back to him that there was no one missing among the 11 of them and that everything was okay. Seeing that his troops were okay, Giorno turns around to check on the status of the monsters. Much to his horror, it turns out that there were monsters that were able to survive the explosion like cockroaches. With his arm trembling as he grabbed onto his sword, Giorno curses out loud that it turns out that not all of the monsters had died, but a foot appears near the trench and tells him to rest some more. Giorno looks to the person and was surprised to see him here. The High Commander and Thor had finally arrived onto the battlefield. Michael questions Giorno on whether he had saved them for this moment. More Night Crow Knights and players had gathered and formed up onto the battlefield where Giorno was. He was no longer alone anymore as everyone rejoiced together. This was the moment that Michael calls out to the countless forces that will protect Aldean Fortress. He orders everyone to advance at the top of his lungs. "Advance!" shouted Michael as the players and Night Crows rushed forward to meet the monsters head-on. "I'll kill you all, you monster bastards!" shouted the leading man as he led the charge in front of everyone. Thanks for watching the latest part from the voice of Manhwa. Subscribe for more content and don't forget to comment below what you want to see in the future. Like and share for more.